And welcome Starling Realty to yet another video. Ernesto here, the broker, Starling Realty. Nice to see you guys again. Today we're going to go over the new NAR settlement forms. Most of these came out in July. We put these in a specific order for you that we're going to go over together so that it makes the most possible sense for you, okay? What we have here is all of the new forms. Here we have the exclusive right of sale listing agreement, right? The ERS-20TB for transaction broker. That's the one we need. Revised 724. Now, everything on this entire board is the new forms. This one is the only one that is the listing agreement. So we're gonna draw an imaginary line of demarcation right here, which is gonna determine the difference between the listing side over here and the purchase side over here. All right, so stay with me. We got some new things to go over, especially there's a section where the buyer's agent has the ability to send a commission agreement directly to the seller through the agent, right? Because we still focus on agency. However, there's a section here where there's a compensation agreement, seller to buyer's broker. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Right now, we're gonna start with the exclusive right of listing agreement. This one here, you're gonna fill it out normally. You're gonna put in the compensation for yourself as the listing agent, and you may or may not put a compensation for the co-broke. That depends on whatever happens with the negotiations with the seller. The seller may agree to have some commissions ready for the buy side, or they may decide not to. It's up to them. We always encourage them to because it expands the buyer pool, but ultimately it's fully negotiable each and every time, okay? So fill this one out normally and have the commission there for yourself as the listing agent, potentially for the co-broke as well. Try to get that because it'll make everything a little bit easier, all right? Line of demarcation here, we're switching over to the buy side. On the buy side, we have a few things to remember. You have to have a showing agreement before you open a door, and you have to have an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement before sending in an offer. This is the big one here. This is what they're going to be looking out for. The state gave us 3 different forms to open a door. This one here is the only one that has the word exclusive on there, and this is the easiest way for us to go fetch commission for you should we have to go do it later. This one has very little protection, and this one virtually no protection. However, the property pre-touring agreement does have a significant value. If you're dealing with a buyer that you've never dealt with before or somebody that you don't know and you want to meet them at the door to get the door opened for the first time to create an opportunity to build a relationship, this is your agreement right here. Let me put this down for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, so I can be in compliance. I need this signed before I can open the door for you. And that gives us an opportunity to build a relationship so we can later talk about this one, right? Make sense? Cool, we're gonna move on from that. What do we have here? We have a modification to exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. This modifies this. When though, right? This is a process that it's set in such a way where we also talk about when is this happening. So once we've agreed to work with our buyer and once we've showed them a couple of homes, maybe they've even selected one that they like, we're going to be thinking about the purchase offer, okay? But before we get into the purchase offer, we have to call, text, or contact somehow the listing agent. And the question for the listing agent is, Mr. and Mrs. Listing Agent, I have a buyer that's interested in your property. I would like to know if there's any compensation available for me as the buyer's agent, right? If the answer is yes, the second question is, will that commission be offered to me through the brokerage or through the seller? If it's offered through the seller, we've got a modification contract here, which is compensation agreement, seller to buyer's broker. We would be filling this out if the seller is offering us, say, 2%, for example, right? If the listing agent tells us, Ernesto, I'm actually offering it through the brokerage, then okay, 2%, is it 2%? Sure, 2%. Then I'm gonna create a compensation agreement, seller's broker to buyer's broker, showing that 2% compensation coming to my brokerage. Once I have this, I use this guy here to modify this guy. This is my license to get paid a commission. So when I first sat down with my buyer, when we were looking at homes, we may have agreed to have a percentage here. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, whatever it is. Whatever we're able to get from either the seller or the seller's broker, we're going to modify so that we have the access to the entire amount of commission. Maybe this guy pays us 1% and the broker pays us 1% and we work for 2, that's fine. Any combination works as long as we use the modification, modify this document, and move into the purchase offer. Make sense? We'll be putting in together a purchase offer as well as a compensation, one or the other, to the listing agent so that we can get paid. A couple of tips on that, right? Because we also have the modification to this one and the modification to this one. What this means is that at some point in the transaction, if we decide to make a change to the commission, our compensation modifiers are right there for us, okay? Hopefully it doesn't happen, but they're there in case it does. One quick tip as we move forward. When you make your purchase offer, say to the listing agent, right? Because you have to present it to the listing agent, and you've got your listing offer as well as your commission or your compensation, broker to broker. This one here, seller's broker to buyer's broker. Let's say that you send them in together, right? Here's your offer and here's my offer of compensation. Here's both. What I want you guys to do is if this compensation agreement reads 2% to the buyer's broker, I want you to put that in the additional comments of the purchase offer as well to strengthen the two. In case you get one signed but not the other, we have it there as a chess game, all right? Guys, I hope that makes sense for you. We're gonna make, we have a class here coming up in a couple of days, basically simplifying this even more. We know it's a lot of material, but this is where we are so far. Remember, this guy here is mandatory before you send in an offer, and one of these three is mandatory before you open the door. The rest we went over together. So see you guys tomorrow, no wait, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow on Thursday for a class here 10 to 11:30 where we're gonna go over this and hatch it down even more. In the meantime, check out this video. And if you have any questions, shoot us a call. The broker line is 239-699-0644. That's 239-699-0644. You got us brokers on the line, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.